Now we're going to go back to our top story here tonight on our first alert weather day, the nor'easter that we've been tracking. Lonnie, Quinn joining us back here again now with more details, more updates.
Yeah, I think we're starting to ramp it up.
Okay.
For a lot of folks, I know there's a lot of folks, especially if they're west of New York City, saying, what storm? It's never really going to prove to be a blockbuster if you go west of New York. If you get inland, it's not so much a big deal. But coastal areas have already had problems, and I think those problems are going to get exacerbated as we go through the overnight hours. So let me get you outside. Now, the picture here in New York City is not great. And it's funny, the world doesn't think of New York City as like a seaside town. Well, that's exactly what we are, all right? And we are catching some of the effects. Now, it's going to get a bit more difficult as we go through these overnight hours, but you're 56, but things are just getting started on the heavier side. I want to get right to a timeline, because this is what you can be sort of gauging the effects outside and how you want your day to play out tomorrow. So from 1 o'clock in the morning, all right, so in just a couple of hours, an hour or so, 1 o'clock in the morning until lunchtime tomorrow. Moderate to heavy bands of rain. You got the wind out there. It's picking up. Coastal flooding. We've already seen some. I think there's going to be more of it. 12 noon until 8 p.m. tomorrow. You're looking at rain and wind continuing. Alerts, they should be expiring at about 8 p.m. And then from 8 p.m. tomorrow until Tuesday noon, the rain and the wind will be dying down. Even Tuesday, though, it's not a pretty day. I think Wednesday you're back to nice weather. But until then, we deal with the mess that is out there. If you look at the high tide cycle, I'm concerned about two runs of high tides. The high tide that's getting ready to set up for tonight, and then the one that will be in place tomorrow afternoon. So for Belmar, it's 12:52 in the morning, just about 1 a.m., and then about 1 p.m. All right, for Freeport, about 1 a.m., 1 p.m. For Port Jefferson, about 5 a.m. and then 5 p.m. That's where I think you're going to be seeing the worst that this has to serve up as far as your coastal flooding, because the high tides are extra high. Because, Alan, we just had that supermoon a few days ago, and it's still sort of pulling on those tides. They're astronomically high out there. We've had a lot of storm reports out there, but notice they are all just up and down the Jersey Shore. So for Manasquan, we've had water covering Brielle Road. Now, that was at 5 o'clock this afternoon. And then you look at, like, Harvey Cedars. They've already had a 56-mile-per-hour wind gust. The biggest effects are going to be will be felt at our shoreline, and that's where we're seeing the biggest numbers thus far. A lot more rain to come. We've picked up about a half an inch in Central Park, closing in on 1.5 inches for the Hamptons. And then look at this, inland, very little, 8/100ths for Sussex. Nothing in Monticello and in Somerville. Again, it's more so the area that's closer to the ocean. How does the radar picture look? Well, you see some bands here showing the little yellow flashes here or there. So there's some moderately heavy downpours. You've had heavier rain before, but it's a storm of duration. You will not be done until this low passes through the area. So quite a bit of time to go. Watch how this plays out. Put it into motion. It's getting closer to our area, so the effects get ramped up the closer that low gets. That's 6 o'clock in the morning. Closer still, then kind of hovering. It's stalling down to our south. This is at lunchtime. And then after that, here it goes. Put it out of here. By the time you get to Monday night and Tuesday, it just skirts out of the area. So what are we talking about as far as affects rainfall from this point moving forward? You could still see potential for you could still end up with a 1 to 3 inch range for a good portion of the area. Winds along the shoreline, that's where we see the biggest numbers. That's where you see the 40 and the 60-mile-per-hour gusts. Inland, it's more like 25 to 45-mile-per-hour gusts. And consequently, the wind alerts are toughest the farther east you go, and also right around the Jersey Shore. So if we get to that 7-day forecast, and again, the times that I'm most concerned about, the upcoming high tide, and then the following one tomorrow afternoon, we do have that first alert that stays in place for your day on Monday. Tuesday, the effects linger, but it's not the heavy stuff. And then you back to some good-looking skies by the time you get to Wednesday.
We'll get there eventually.
Yes, we will, Master. Yes, we will.
Thank you, Lonnie. Thank you.